Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Over the past fortnight, we've seen very disturbing riots on the streets of France, in Paris, where protesters have taken to the streets because of increased taxation on their motoring. And I hope that we never ever see scenes like that on the streets of Australia. And therefore, Deputy Speaker, as we go into the next election, I call upon the Australian Labor Party to fully disclose to the Australian community how they are going to achieve their plans for an economy-wide 45% emissions reduction target and what their plans are for the transportation sector. What will the Labor Party's plans mean to the person that lives in an outer suburb of our major cities or our regional areas of this country to get that 45% emissions reduction target? The last election, Deputy Speaker, one policy that the Labor Party were able to sneak under the radar was a plan to reduce the average CO2 emissions for our car fleet per kilometre travelled down from the 180 odd grams of CO2 per kilometre travelled down to 105. The question is, how would this be achieved? What form of punitive taxation does the Labor Party have planned for our car buyers to achieve that policy? Deputy Speaker, transportation makes up 18% of our nation's CO2 emissions. So the Labor Party cannot walk away from this. They have to disclose this to the Australian public so they know what they are voting for, and so there are no surprises if they should take office. Now, Labor's 45% emissions reduction target, previously the Climate Change Authority estimated that would require a carbon tax of $135 a tonne. Now, what does $135 a tonne do to the price of petrol? It increases it, Deputy Speaker, 40 cents a litre. So we are facing the prospect, we have seen riots in France over a few euro cents, the equivalent of less than 10 Australian cents. We have seen riots in France happen because of that, and yet we have the Australian Labor Party, a policy that they have that required to reach that goals is going to require a carbon tax on petrol, the equivalent of 40 cents a litre. Now, Deputy Speaker, people may be very prepared to pay an extra 40 cents a litre. They may be happy that this is their contribution to taking action on climate change. But if that's the case, the Labor Party has an obligation to spell it out, crystal clear, what they are going to do. And, Deputy Speaker, what about their emissions standard? What do they see? What is their goal for the emission standards of Australian cars? Are they going to have the same policy of before, of basically putting these punitive taxes on any large cars? How does this work for someone that lives in a regional area, that travels country roads, that have kangaroos and all types of other animals that stray onto the roads that are likely to run into it? If the Labor Party says, if you want a large four-wheel drive to drive on our country roads, well, we are going to punitively tax you. I don't know, Deputy Speaker. I don't know what the policies are. I know what the goals are. The Labor Party has said this is the target that we have, but they have not said how they're going to get there. They owe it to the Australian people to come clean, to disclose what those targets are and how they're going to get to those targets. Deputy Speaker, otherwise, I fear, and I hate to say this, but I fear that we risk seeing what we've seen on the streets of France in the streets of Australia. This is why. Give people the option, let them know, Deputy Speaker, so when they go to the ballot box, exactly what the policies are. How much will the carbon tax be on petrol when someone goes to the Bowser? What are you going to do to someone that wants to buy a large four-wheel drive? How much more will you put up the taxes? If it's nothing, say so. Say so. Be very crystal clear about what it is,
the,
but don't hide behind these
I thank the
policies
member
and make it a
for
wake-up
Hughes.
call to
I
the
thank the
Australian
member for
public.
Hughes.